Greetings Patriots, Leo Katsereas, America's Hype Man, joining you for the 2020 virtual rally for your Second Amendment rights. Now, despite my passion for liberty, the Second Amendment, and Americanism as a whole, very few of you would have actually heard of me, and that's because I've spent the past 7.5 years in service to this country. Whether it was through the work that I did in counterterrorism on behalf of the federal government, to now being an active duty sailor in the United States Navy. So, before we get started, please understand that the opinions herein are my own. They are not the policies of the Department of the Navy, the Department of Defense, or the US government. As you might have guessed from my charming, yet highly pretentious accent, I've not always been an American. So let's talk a little bit about how I got here. While studying a course of Arabic in Qatar in 2008, I met some amazing American students who told me that they recognized that I loved liberty and that I should do some research into the United States, and in particular, the US Revolution, the Founding Fathers, and the founding documents including the Declaration of Independence and the US Constitution. Well, I did exactly that, and no surprises here, I fell in love with the United States. I swore that I would immigrate to America, become a citizen, and I would spend the rest of my life, in some capacity or another, supporting and defending the Constitution. I consider myself, before anything else, and above all else, an American, and I cringe whenever somebody refers to me as a Muslim American or an American Muslim. I'm just an American that happens to be a Muslim. Nevertheless, being an openly practicing Muslim serving in the I have experienced a significant amount of discrimination and ignorance. In the past 4 years, I've been subjected to no less than 4 insider threat investigations by the more commonly known as all of which were found to have been unsubstantiated. Apparently, being a patriotic, gun-loving, immigrant Muslim who wanted a beard for religious purposes and who wanted to fight against Muslim terrorists really spooked people around me. In fact, the catalyst for my now openly starting to advocate for the Second Amendment is that the most recent insider threat investigation into me started because some of my became frightened at the fact that I wanted to register my personal firearms on the army base that I was stationed at so that I could shoot at their awesome gun range. Again, concluded that I wasn't actually a threat, so all I was really guilty of is enjoying shooting while being a Muslim. I'll admit though, to be subjected to this by people who I would readily die to protect hurt no less so the 4th time as it did the 1st time. So I examined why this kept happening, and I concluded that this wouldn't keep happening if those who felt this fear had seen Muslims as equals and as being an integral part of our gun community. But why is it the case that the Muslim community is not well represented in the gun community? Well, there are a few reasons for this. The first is that many are immigrants, or first and second generation Americans, and are not entirely used to the idea of keeping and bearing arms. In those cases, we need to do more outreach to them. We need to get involved with them and make sure that they're brought into the fold of the gun community. The second reason, unfortunately, is that many Muslims are simply afraid of being viewed with suspicion and being viewed as threats, and as such, they don't participate in firearms ownership. The Muslims who do partake in firearms ownership are not always open about being Muslim and hide their faith while they are out and about in the gun community. Why though? Well, unfortunately, we, in the gun community, have a minority amongst us that have been and continue to be outright unwelcoming to the Muslim community. You know the types of folks that I'm talking about. We've seen them on TV, social media, YouTube, and at gun shows. They make bold statements about how they're banning Muslims from their stores, gun ranges, and events, and they sell t-shirts and stickers promoting their hateful and frankly un-American ideas. Yes, it's their right to be that way, and no one can force another not to be bigoted. However, it ultimately shows that they don't believe that the right to keep and bear arms applies to all, and, unlike the rest of us, they wouldn't risk their lives to protect the rights of Americans they consider to be the other. This is America, a nation founded upon religious liberty, and I'm sure you'll agree that no person should feel that they have to hide their faith in order to feel welcome in our community. So, to the people that hold the type of hatred and fear that I'm referring to, I simply say this. Those that wish to usurp your right to keep and bear arms are only able to do so by making the gun community seem like a monolithic group of right-wing, uneducated, bigoted, and hateful rednecks. Our inalienable right to keep and bear arms applies to all Americans, and irrespective of how you might feel about a group of people, which again, you have the right to feel, the only way that you can properly protect your rights is to ensure that they apply to every American. That is how you shatter the narrative of those who wish to take our rights away. And when you shatter that narrative, they'll be forced to debate the facts about gun control, and they will lose that debate every single time. It's not all bad news, though. The gun community has taken some major steps in the past few years towards achieving the diversity I'm talking about, and today is the perfect example of that. So let's keep this momentum up, patriots. Speaking or participating in this rally is simply not enough, though. Let's build a large and diverse coalition to protect our right to keep and bear arms so that no one would dare try to dismiss us as a bunch of ignorant, white supremacist, racist rednecks. We need to take this opportunity to learn from the examples of other communities that do outreach and use the same methods that they use to build awareness into the gun community and firearms ownership in general, and then work to make it more accessible to every American. On a closing note, trust me when I say this, I was born and raised in Australia, and I've lived in nations that best be described as tyrannical dictatorships. Nothing good has ever come from giving your rights up, and we have absolutely no authority to surrender the rights of our fellow citizens or future generations of Americans. Our obligation is to protect those rights like those that came before us. Thank you very much.